There are moments in life when you can almost feel it, like the air itself is stirring, like something is shifting in the invisible realm long before it becomes visible in your world. You may not be able to explain it to those around you, but deep inside, there is a quiet whisper telling you God is preparing you for something bigger than you've ever seen. And if you have felt that stirring lately, if you've sensed a change rising on the horizon of your soul, then hear me today. God is preparing you for the greatest shift you've ever known. But here's the truth many people miss. Before God shifts your circumstances, He shifts you. Before He opens a new door, He strengthens the person who will walk through it. Before He brings the breakthrough, He builds the character that can sustain the blessing. And it is often in the seasons of pressure, uncertainty, and stretching that God does His deepest work. Some of you listening right now know exactly what I mean. You've been praying, and yet it feels like heaven has been silent. You've been believing, and yet the answers seem delayed. You've been faithful, but the path still feels foggy. And you've wondered, Lord, why is everything taking so long? Why does it feel like nothing is moving? But what if in this very moment, God is doing more behind the scenes than you realize? What if the waiting you despise is the very place where He is shaping your destiny? What if the delay is actually divine preparation? I remember speaking to a man who had gone through years of disappointment. Every opportunity slipped through his fingers. Every dream seemed to crumble. He said he felt like his life was stuck in a holding pattern, circling but never landing. But years later, when he finally stepped into the purpose God had been aligning for him, he looked back with tears and said, if I had received the blessing earlier, I wouldn't have had the strength, the wisdom, or the humility to carry it. God wasn't denying him. God was developing him. And maybe that's you today. Maybe God isn't withholding a blessing. He's preparing you not to be crushed by the blessing when it arrives. Because a shift is coming. A change is coming. A breakthrough is coming. But God wants to make sure you are ready, anchored, and aligned when it arrives. Sometimes God prepares you by removing things. A friendship falls away. A job ends. A season closes. And you cry out, why, Lord? But God knows what you don't. That some things cannot travel where He is taking you. Some relationships cannot handle the weight of the calling on your life. Some environments are too small for the destiny He planted in you, so He separates before He elevates. Sometimes God prepares you by unsettling your comfort. You used to be satisfied, but now there's a holy dissatisfaction rising in your spirit. You used to feel at home, but now something feels off, like you've outgrown the place you've been living in emotionally, spiritually, or mentally. That's not restlessness, that's God calling you higher. Sometimes God prepares you with a battle, because the level you are about to step into requires a warrior, not a worrier. It requires someone who has learned to pray when pressured, trust when trembling, worship when wounded. And God, in His loving wisdom, trains His strongest soldiers in the heat of the fire, not to break them, but to build them. I want you to hear this with your whole heart. What you are facing right now is not the end. It is the evidence that God is shifting you into something greater. The very struggle you thought would destroy you is actually strengthening you. The tears you cried were watering the seeds of your next season. Every night you felt alone, heaven was working. Every step you took when you didn't feel like walking was getting you ready for a day you can't yet see. There is a story of a young woman who used to watch butterflies emerging from their cocoons. One day, she saw one struggling, fighting, pressing, pushing against the cocoon that held it bound. Her heart broke for it, so she gently cut the cocoon open to help it. The butterfly came out easily, but when it tried to fly, it couldn't. Its wings were too weak, its body too soft. What she didn't know was that the struggle was necessary. The pressure strengthens the wings. The fight prepares the flight. Some of you have been praying for God to remove your struggle when the struggle is the very thing preparing you for where God is taking you. If God opened every door instantly, if God answered every prayer immediately, if God lifted every burden without delay, you would never develop the strength needed for the future He's preparing. So if you find yourself in a place of stretching, don't run from it. Lean into it. God is shaping you. God is refining you. God is preparing you. What feels like breaking is actually making. And I believe with all my heart that there are people listening who are closer to a divine shift than they realize. You're standing at the edge of something extraordinary. You're on the threshold of a new season. The winds are beginning to change. The doors are beginning to move. The heavens are beginning to open. God is aligning what looked impossible. He is restoring what you thought was gone. He is bringing back what you cried over. He is redeeming what broke you. He is preparing you for greater influence, deeper purpose, higher calling, and stronger faith. But hear this, when God shifts your life, not everyone will understand it. Some will question it. Some will resist it. Some will be intimidated by it. But when God sets a plan in motion, no human hand can stop it. No enemy can block it. No circumstance can reverse it. What God is preparing for you is protected by His own authority. And when that shift comes, it won't be small. It won't be subtle. It won't be ordinary. It will be so great, so undeniable, so beyond your own abilities that you will know. This was God. This was His timing, His purpose, His preparation. You may have walked through fire, but you're coming out refined. You may have walked through loss, but you're coming out restored. You may have walked through tears, but you're coming out stronger. You may have walked through emptiness, but you're coming out overflowing. Because God is preparing you for the greatest shift you've ever known. So lift your head. Steady your heart. Strengthen your faith. Something is coming. Something heaven sent. Something tailor-made. Something ordained long before you took your first breath. And when it comes, you will say, now I understand why the journey took so long. Now I see why God had to prepare me first. Now I know this is what He was shaping me for. The shift is coming, and you are almost ready. When God is preparing to shift your life, He doesn't start with your surroundings. He starts with your spirit long before you see a door open, long before a blessing arrives, long before a breakthrough becomes visible. God begins His work deep within you. People often pray for changed circumstances, but God focuses first on changing the character of the person who will step into that new season. He knows that if the heart isn't ready, the blessing will feel heavy instead of holy. If the mindset isn't renewed, the opportunity will become overwhelming instead of empowering. So God starts His greatest shifts by shaping, stretching, and refining the inner life. There are times when everything around you looks exactly the same, yet inside you can feel something moving. There's a stirring, a restlessness, a spiritual awareness that you're not who you used to be, and you're not yet who you're becoming. That inner stirring is not confusion, it's transformation. It's God rearranging your thoughts, redirecting your desires, and realigning your purpose. It's a quiet but unmistakable sign that He is preparing you long before He unveils what He's prepared for you. Often this internal work shows up in subtle ways. You start losing interest in things that once held your attention. Conversations that used to satisfy you now feel shallow. Habits that once comforted you no longer bring peace. You grow uncomfortable in old patterns, not because something is wrong with you, but because God is calling you higher. He won't let you settle in a place that is too small for the destiny He placed within you. So He begins shifting your heart, expanding your capacity, creating space for new faith, new strength, and new vision. Sometimes God prepares you through conviction. You feel Him challenging certain attitudes, exposing hidden fears, or confronting areas you've avoided. There are moments when you sense Him prompting you to forgive someone you didn't want to forgive, release something you were clinging to, or face something you were running from. None of this is random. He is shaping the person who will walk boldly into the next season. He is strengthening the foundation so the weight of the coming blessing will not break you. He is teaching you to depend on Him more deeply so that when the shift arrives, your faith will sustain you rather than crumble under pressure. There are times when God prepares you by stretching your trust. He allows situations where you cannot rely on your own strength, your own plans, or your own wisdom. You begin to lean on Him in ways you never had to before. Prayer becomes not a ritual, but a lifeline. Scripture becomes not information, but nourishment. Worship becomes not a moment, but a refuge. Inwardly, God is anchoring you, grounding you, and maturing you for what's ahead. This inward preparation is often hidden from others. People may look at you and think nothing is changing, but God sees the quiet transformation no one else witnesses. He sees you surrendering things you never thought you could release. He sees you fighting battles in your mind with faith instead of fear. He sees you choosing patience when everything in you wants to rush the timing. He sees the tears you cry in private, the prayers you whisper in exhaustion, the courage you show even when uncertainty surrounds you. And each of these moments is shaping the person you are becoming. Before God shifts your circumstances, He strengthens your internal posture. He teaches you to stand firm, to trust deeply, to walk boldly, to believe consistently. Because what He is preparing for you requires a version of you that is wiser, stronger, more disciplined, and more surrendered than the version that began the journey. When He finally opens the door, He wants you to walk through it not with fear, but with readiness, confidence, and faith that has been built through quiet transformation. When you find yourself in a season of delay, pressure, or uncertainty, it is easy to assume that something has gone wrong or that God has somehow forgotten you. But what many fail to recognize is that these very moments are often signs of divine preparation. God rarely rushes His greatest works because what He is building in you is just as important as what He is preparing for you. Delays are not denials, they are training grounds. Pressure isn't punishment, it's strengthening. Uncertainty isn't abandonment, it's God shifting you into deeper trust. What feels like stagnation is often the silent work of heaven aligning things in your favor long before you ever see them. There are seasons when your prayers seem to go unanswered and your effort appears to produce little visible progress. You look around and wonder why doors remain closed and why nothing is unfolding the way you imagine. But it is in these moments that God is working on roots rather than branches. He is grounding you so deeply in faith that when the breakthrough finally comes, you will not be shaken by the weight of blessing or the responsibility that comes with elevation. Every delay has purpose, even when that purpose is hidden from your understanding. Pressure is another tool God uses in His preparation. When life presses on you from every direction, when responsibilities feel heavy, or when circumstances seem overwhelming, God is not crushing you, He is shaping you. Just as coal under pressure becomes a diamond, your spirit is refined under the weight of adversity. Pressure reveals what is weak, so God can strengthen it. Pressure exposes what is unstable, so God can fortify it. Pressure pushes you to depend on Him when your own strength is not enough. It is under pressure that faith matures, perseverance grows, and character deepens. Without pressure, there would be no progress into the person God intends you to become. Uncertainty may be the hardest part of divine preparation. You want clarity, direction, and answers, but instead you find yourself walking through fog. You can't see the full picture, and sometimes you can't see more than one step ahead. Yet God often leads his people through seasons where clarity is replaced by trust. Uncertainty forces your faith to rise above your understanding. It teaches you to walk by belief rather than sight. It trains your heart to rely on God's voice more than your own logic. And while uncertainty feels uncomfortable, it is one of the clearest signs that God is guiding you toward something significant. People often misinterpret these seasons. They assume distance when God is actually drawing them closer. They assume failure when God is actually preparing success. They assume silence when God is actually speaking through circumstances rather than words. But every tear you shed during the delay, every prayer you cry out under pressure, every step you take in the midst of uncertainty is preparing you for the moment when God's timing and your readiness finally meet. There are blessings that require maturity. There are opportunities that require strength. There are callings that require humility. And God uses delay, pressure, and uncertainty to cultivate each of these qualities within you. He is not punishing you by making you wait. He is equipping you. He is not ignoring you in the pressure. He is refining you. He is not confusing you in uncertainty. He is guiding you into deeper faith. What feels like the slowest season of your life may be the most important one in shaping who you become. There are seasons when God begins to separate you from people, places, and patterns that once felt familiar, and although it can feel painful or confusing, this separation is often a sign of divine protection and preparation. Not everyone is meant to accompany you into your next chapter, and God, in his wisdom, begins to gently or sometimes abruptly remove what cannot carry the weight of the destiny he has placed within you. When relationships fade, when certain connections dissolve, or when environments that once felt comfortable suddenly feel restrictive, it is not always loss. Often it is God clearing the path for what he is bringing next. You may notice that certain people who once understood you now misunderstand you. Conversations that once flowed effortlessly now feel strained. Their priorities no longer match yours. Their vision no longer aligns with the direction God is pulling you toward. Sometimes the gap grows slowly, other times it widens overnight. And even though you may try to hold on, God begins to tug at your spirit, signaling that the season of that connection has fulfilled its purpose. This is not rejection, it is redirection. It is God ensuring that your spirit is surrounded by influences that nourish your calling rather than hinder it. There are environments that once felt perfect for your growth, but now feel too small, too limiting, too draining. You sense that you have outgrown the place that used to fit you comfortably. This shift is not about arrogance, it is about alignment. When God plants new vision inside you, he prepares to move you out of soil that no longer supports that vision. Staying where God is calling you away from can stunt your spiritual growth. So he disrupts your comfort to propel you into greater purpose. He creates dissatisfaction to awaken your calling. He allows doors to close so new ones can open. Sometimes the separation comes through pruning. God removes attitudes, habits, or patterns that are incompatible with the future he has designed for you. It may feel like he is stripping things away, but in truth, he is strengthening you. A tree grows stronger and produces more fruit after pruning, not before. In the same way, your character deepens when God cuts away what no longer belongs. This internal removal can feel just as intense as relational separation, but it is all part of the same divine process of preparation. One of the most challenging aspects of God-led separation is that you may not understand it while it is happening. You may ask, why this friendship? Why this place? Why this situation? Why now? But God sees what you cannot see. He hears conversations you never heard. He knows the thoughts of people around you. He understands which relationships would weaken you in the next season and which environments would drain your passion instead of fueling it. So he goes ahead of you, removing what could sabotage your future long before you arrive at it. What looks like loss is often protection. What feels like abandonment is often elevation. What seems like an ending is actually preparation for a beginning. When God separates you, it is never to leave you empty. It is to create space for what is coming. You only feel the loss because you cannot yet see the fullness of what God is preparing. And although separation is painful, it is often the clearest evidence that God is positioning you for growth, for calling, and for a future that requires a different version of you than the one you have been. Struggle has a way of making you question everything: your strength, your progress, even your purpose. Yet, what many don't realize is that the very struggle they are trying to escape is the same struggle God is using to prepare them for the next level. Just as the butterfly must press against the cocoon to strengthen its wings, you too must push through resistance to develop the spiritual muscles needed for where God is taking you. Without the pressure, the wings would remain weak. Without the struggle, the transformation would remain incomplete. What feels like an attack is often training. What feels like a setback is often shaping. What feels like hardship is often the very thing equipping you for your breakthrough. There are times when you pray for the struggle to end, believing it is blocking your progress. But in truth, it may be building your endurance. Every challenge you survive adds strength to your spirit. Every tear you shed waters your resilience. Every moment you feel like giving up and choose to keep going adds another layer of perseverance to your character. God allows certain struggles not to harm you, but to stretch you. And growth rarely happens in comfort. Growth often emerges from places where your faith is tested, your emotions are strained, and your patience is pushed beyond its limits. You might not see it while you're in the middle of the battle, but struggle builds qualities you will need in your future. If you are destined for greater influence, your struggle is shaping humility. If you are called to carry more responsibility, your struggle is strengthening your discipline. If you are meant to lead others, your struggle is deepening your compassion. God doesn't waste the battles you face. Every trial carries a lesson. Every hardship carries wisdom. Every burden you lift today prepares you for the weight of tomorrow's opportunities. Sometimes the struggle exposes weaknesses you never knew you had. You begin to see areas where you need healing or habits that need breaking. You discover fears you must confront and insecurities you must release. The struggle brings them to the surface, not to shame you, but to free you. God reveals in the struggle what could sabotage your future if left unaddressed. So while you feel like you're fighting, He is refining. While you feel like you're breaking, He is rebuilding. While you feel like you're losing, He is strengthening you more than you ever realized. The struggle also teaches you dependence. When your own strength runs out, you learn to lean on God in ways you never had to before. When the answers are unclear, you learn to trust His timing. When you feel overwhelmed, you learn to rest in His presence. Struggle pushes you closer to the one who sustains you. It deepens your relationship with God, not because life is easy, but because you have no choice but to rely on Him. And in that reliance, your faith matures. Your confidence shifts from your own ability to His unfailing power. There will come a time when you look back on the very battles that frustrated you and realize they were forming you. You will see that every long night, every unanswered question, every painful moment was building strength you didn't know you needed. The struggle was preparing you, stretching you, equipping you, fortifying you. And without it, you would not have the foundation required for the level God is calling you into. When you look back at everything you've walked through, the delays that frustrated you, the struggles that exhausted you, the separations that broke you, the inner battles no one else saw, you will begin to understand that none of it was wasted. Every moment was part of a divine preparation. Every quiet season was shaping your strength. Every painful chapter was refining your purpose. What seemed like the slowest, hardest, most confusing parts of your journey were actually the places where God's hand was working the deepest. He was preparing you long before. He was preparing the blessing. He was building the person long before He unveiled the promise. And even when you didn't feel Him, He was closer than your breath, guiding you step by step into the future He designed for you. There comes a point in every journey when the preparation begins to make sense. The tears you cried begin to show their purpose. The weight you carried begins to reveal its strength. The silence you endured begins to uncover the wisdom you gained. You start to realize that God was not holding you back, He was positioning you. He was not delaying you, He was developing you. He was not denying you, He was defending you from what could have destroyed you before the right time. What felt like isolation was actually insulation. What felt like confusion was actually protection. What felt like loss was actually divine alignment taking place behind the scenes. And now, something in your spirit knows that you are nearing the threshold of a new season. You can feel a shift rising. You can sense change approaching. You can sense that the heaviness is lifting. The fog is clearing. The pieces are falling into place in ways you could never orchestrate on your own. God has been preparing you for a future greater than anything you imagined. And the very areas where you felt the most pressure are the same areas where He is about to reveal the greatest breakthrough. The battles you fought have not weakened you. They have equipped you. The storms you endured have not drowned you. They have positioned you on higher ground. The moments that felt like breaking were actually making you into someone stronger, wiser, and more capable of carrying what God is about to release into your life. There is a version of you that exists on the other side of this preparation, a version of you who walks with steadier faith, clearer vision, deeper confidence, and stronger purpose. And that version of you is closer than you realize. The shift you've been sensing is not your imagination, it is heaven's confirmation. Something is moving. Something is changing. Something is aligning. And when it unfolds, you will look back and say, this is why the journey took time. This is why the pruning was necessary. This is why the struggle was allowed. This is why God was quiet. Because He was preparing you for something far greater.